Hey guys, welcome back. Behavior Strategies for Class here. This is where we empower educators with effective behavior management strategies that work so you can teach with the least amount of interruptions, right? Because I know that is your goal. And we are all back to school, as far as I know. Majority of people are back in school. But what is one thing that you want to avoid? And that is burnout, right? So I am speaking with Andrew Smith, our behavior expert, our behavior coach, and he is giving us some insight on how to protect your energy. Because the start of a new school year is supposed to feel like a fresh chapter, right? Sharpened pencils, clean notebook, all the possibilities. Your room is set up, perfect. There's no slime and sweat and snot on any of your new stuff yet. But for so many of you, it also brings exhaustion, even before that first bell rings. But so today we're going to unpack some back to school burnout reasons. So, really, why does it happen? How is it going to show up? Like, how are you going to recognize when you are at that point? And then, most importantly, what can you do to protect your energy and your well being during some of the busiest seasons of the year? So, listen in because you're going to learn about not only surviving, but Andrew gives us some great tips on how to build a school year that you can thrive in and not burn out in. So you won't want to miss this. Welcome to Behavior Strategies for Class. I am Diane Bachman, your behavior paraprofessional with over 15 years of experience working in special education. And I'm so glad you're here because I'll be teaching you about social emotional learning, behavior strategies, trauma-informed care, and more. So if you are tired of being frustrated and not knowing what to do with your students who have challenging and disruptive behavior, you're in the right place. Now, if you're ready to become more equipped to help your students learn and grow, let's listen in to today's episode. So before we get started, don't forget to check the show notes for the link to sign up for more tips, more strategies, and to be notified when the Becoming a Behavior Pro course goes live. So I would love to be able to give you a 10% discount for showing up, signing up on the email. Check the show notes for the link and sign up today. Hey guys, welcome back. Behavior Strategies for Class here. Today is my chat, our monthly chat with Andrew Smith, behavior coach extraordinaire. I have to put that in. And today we're talking about back to school burnout. How can you protect your energy and save yourself from going into burnout, especially at the beginning of the year with so much going on? So, welcome, Andrew.
Thanks. Always a pleasure.
Awesome. So we're gonna jump right in and you give us some ideas on how teachers, educators can protect their energy and save themselves from burning out, especially in the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Well, and if you're anything like me or the people in my district, then you go back right, a week, 2 weeks, sometimes for some places three, depending on what's going on before you even have any kids. So it's real easy
Right.
to flame out very quick, especially if you're excited. I mean, that's a good thing. However, if you run yourself ragged before you even get kids, then the daily stresses of managing everything can be hard. So
Right.
I always like to think about let's talk about what a boundary is to keep just to begin with. Well, a boundary can be the edge of us and the beginning of someone else, right? And that can be, I always think of three areas: that physical, mental, and spiritual energy, depending on everybody's comfort level with that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about those kind of encompass, a large holistic part of us. They touch on different parts of us that make us not just teachers, because you're not just Mrs. B, right, at
Yeah.
school that lives at school. No matter what the kids tell you,
Thank
you
goodness.
exist outside the school, right? You have a lot of intersecting parts of you. Um, so when you're talking about boundaries, we got to make sure that we talk about all of them, because one weekend part can really allow stress, and sometimes I always call them energy vampires, or even
Yeah.
just people who are looking to take advantage um, can kind of worm their way in.
Yeah.
So for teachers, there's always we always talk about physical boundaries a lot of times. In fact, you and I were just having a discussion about some of the physical boundaries and how we keep some physical boundaries for safety, right? With
Right.
if you have to do any sort of de-escalation, or there's an acting out person or any aggression. So we think about that too, but also the physical boundaries of um, how overloaded you can get with your physical space,
Mm-hmm.
um, which can be, do you have a busy space? Do you have a very closed knit thing that can help overwhelm you or create stress? So how you lay out your classroom, or how busy your area is, can
Mm-hmm.
have a very stressful effect on somebody. The excuse me, the physical part of talking, conversing, are you allowing a lot of chatting, or is it kind of a free for all, or do you have to have that complete silence that Sister Mary Magdalene had when I was going to Catholic school back in the day, where you couldn't sneeze or else, right? Um, Knowing those first off, and then knowing how to keep those and what helps you with your stress level is important. Um, I tend to be a little bit more loose with those parts of those things, but that's because that's where my comfort level is. So finding your
Right.
comfort level in that part helps keep some of those physical spaces, um, and those physical boundaries intact, to know what you're working with literally in the physical space.
Right.
The mental emotional part, especially at the beginning of the year, everybody's all full send, like jump right in, right? You get the rah rah going. And so
Yeah.
it very much can be like, I'm going to spend ton of time doing things. But you can also set some clear boundaries for your mental and emotional space of, I don't own my emotions, or I don't own your emotions. You do own your own
Yeah.
emotions. So let me clarify that right there. But when other people around you are having very high emotions of stress, of feeling anxiety or panic or anger, or all those different things, having a grounding part of yourself know that you don't own their emotions or their reactions, right? You only
Right.
own yours. So having that mindset helps. Um, Another part is making sure that you're taking care of your own stress. So uh, stress happens. It's going to happen to you. Surprise, it's going to happen to me. It's going to happen
Right.
to Joe Schmo on the street. How
Exactly.
you handle that, and roll with the good stress, because there's some good stress that can happen, which there's a everybody has their own tipping point with it, where it will cause you to rise up, or you'll have an overwhelming amount of stress, or if you're not discharging your stress, things like that, and taking care of yourself, um, that can have a large effect on you. And the parts that I always think of are like our basic needs, like, are you sleeping well? So if you're going full send in your boundaries for not being able to say no and volunteering for everything, and
Right.
guilty of that myself, trying to wear so many hats. If you're an admin, you're running around sometimes. Um, Quick story is that we just got done with our bond, and they are finishing up construction on three different buildings in our district. And so all of the admins of those buildings have literally been running around since
Oh my gosh.
mid-July to try and track the progress, all of those things. And the little
Right.
punch lists are still going. And so some of them are feeling more burnt out because the mental energy of like, is the physical space, right? That physical boundary, is that even ready for students?
Right.
Um, so are you taking care of your stress relief and your sleep? That's a huge thing. Are you eating well? You know, the nutrients and things that you put in your body, that's gonna really affect your mental mood and the gut-brain biome and connection and, you know, hormonal superhighway that influences each other. It's super important. Are you, I just lost my train of thought. So are
You're
you protecting
eating,
those
you're
areas?
sleeping, good
Eating,
nutrition.
sleeping. Are you having time for your family and people outside? Are you having time for your own hobbies and interests, right? That
Yeah.
aren't related to job or education. Because those are what can help refill your bucket as well. So some different ways of handling all of that mental and emotional load. Um, and saying no is a great way to do that, and that's part of self-care too. So
Right.
when I talk to I teach little kids, and I also exist within the counseling world. And what I do there is working in a doctoral program, and so we talk to our doctoral students about how do you handle some of those parts, and how do you go about oh
Have you had your nutrition tonight, Andrew?
no, I need this cold is kicking my butt. Maybe I'm burned out because I'm having some mental fog. Um, whew, I just had it and I lost it. So, um, part of that though is like protecting and saying no and ha setting those clear boundaries with saying no. And I just said that again.
Well, if I could pop in, I would say like one thing, like you said, you're fighting a cold. My coworker, two of my coworkers have been sick already, and same, like we've been back in school for like a week and a half. One way, like I've already started taking airborne, like even before we even started school. Like that's one way I think to help just kind of boost your physical, which obviously will affect your mental because, being knocked out right away with sickness really does, bring that level down, that energy. And like you said, those boundaries come down when you don't feel good. And if you're able to be a little more proactive, which some of these will be proactive for you to kind of build your immune system, I think will also help in not feeling that burnout right away. What do you think?
Exactly. Ditto. But also, you know, seeking support and help. And that's something that not just the education field, not just the caring services or the human services field. Lots of us struggle with that because we want to be able to show either that we're competent in handling so many different things. We can handle this. We can multitask. I'm a smart person. I can take care of this.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a reflection of you and that you can't handle something or something that you don't know how to handle something. Sometimes being able to seek support, whether it's with help with a project or a kiddo or just an odd situation, that just helps you use your resources and your mental energy as best as possible. And so that's just another area then that I talk about energy. Like there, you know what? There are some places where you go to your meetings and it's gonna suck that out of you. Could have been an email,
Yeah.
right? So that's where I start talking about that mental and spiritual and things like that. That there are some people that you encounter, some of those parent meetings or can take a lot out of you. Even if
Back
they
to
go
school
well, they can
night.
take a lot
Hmm.
out of you. Yeah. So being purposeful about when you schedule them and what you do before and after those meetings is important. Um, and I was actually talking to a colleague the other day about how to handle some mental load. And one of the things that I like to talk about is what is your entry routine and what is your exit routine?
Mm,
Because as you know, Mrs. B, routines can be very comforting. They're predictable.
yes.
You stick to a routine, and generally you keep that boundary with that routine, right?
Right.
So an entry routine is how do you pump yourself up for the day? You got a jam, right? Are you
Yeah.
village people like Mrs. B? Are you Metallica like me? What gets you going during the day?
Exactly.
And a little personal part about me is like, my stepdad loves NPR. So I grew up on the way to school, you listen to NPR. I
Oh,
still
yeah.
have to do that. And
Yeah.
then depending on which building I'm going to, about 3, 4, 5 minutes out of there, then I switch it up to one of my rocks. I love classic rock because
Classic
my
rock.
stepdad also loved classic rock and country western and everything. And so I do that and I get pumped up for the day. And it helps just kind of wake me up. It helps me shift my mindset so that I can come in and be as focused as when I'm not in the middle of a cold. Um,
Right.
but as focused as I can be to be present with the kids and bring my all or as much as I can for them.
Right.
And then my entry routine is pretty reflective of my exit. It's like, how do you shed off all of
Mm,
that stress from the day?
right.
Now, one thing I mentioned is with self-care, because when we're feeling burnt out, we have to make sure we exercise self-care because then the boundaries start crumbling. Self-care is not just go get yourself, treat yourself and get a spa day going.
Starbucks.
Yeah. I mean, that can be a good part of it, especially donuts. Don't get me started on the donuts are essential,
Yeah.
right? Smith gets super cranky when we don't do donuts on those kinds of days. However, it's also saying no. It's also holding yourself accountable for what you need to do. And this might be unpopular, but if you say you're going to get your grading done by Friday, hold yourself accountable for it
Right.
because the person who's going to suffer more from that is yourself and whoever you share your life with outside of it. Because if you then have to take time away, that's just time that you're not going to feel connected to somebody else outside of
Right.
work and school. Because guess what? You are an intersection of a lot of different parts
Right.
and and identities, and that's important for you to feed those other parts too. But if one piece, and I'm not saying there's going to be exceptions to the rule, there's always going to be like late night things that happen. But if we make that a habit of keeping yourself accountable to that, I'm going to get my stuff done on Friday, 6 o'clock before I walk out. So then you can just be with your family, be with your significant other, be with your animals. That's going to help you refill your bucket. It's going to help protect a lot of your mental, spiritual, physical energy. So that's a big part of self-care is holding yourself accountable, right? You're going to hold I was
Right.
talking to a kid like the other day is that if you hold somebody else to their words, hold yourself to your words too. And that can be a big part of protecting those boundaries and that self-care.
Yeah, those are great. And I would definitely add, and I think you touched on it, like sleep, having the routine of getting more than like 4 hours of sleep if possible. Because I know, especially, well, for me, I don't love getting up early in the morning. Of course, now I'm back at work. I do get up early because I want to have time for myself. That's my spiritual time. And then do exercise. Then I have to take a shower. But that's not like, if I didn't have to, I wouldn't. But I notice, like, 3 or 4 days in, and if I'm going to bed like after 11, which sometimes I do, and then to get up early, like it totally catches up to you and you feel that like just exhausted, like you have no energy exactly, and you're not motivated, and then you're showing up with the kids and you have no patience and obviously it's really important and I've really learned like really how super important sleep is. I mean, that's when your whole body just kind of heals and rests and to wake up refreshed is like amazing when I can get like 6 hours of sleep at night. It's like, oh wow,
Really.
this is actually not too bad.
Yeah, and that's interesting because we've been talking about that for my house with my kids. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and
Yeah.
kind of exploring how much sleep they actually need because they're unfortunately they're ending up like more like me in that area is that they could stay up at the drop of a hat. You know, if you see them on this side at 7 o'clock in the morning, that's a rare treat, right? Also because
Yeah.
it's summer, but still. Um, but really there's so much regulation and so much things that happen with sleep and once you create a deficit you it takes a while if you ever make up that sleep deficit but it has such an important part on your metabolism, on your digestion, on your learning capability, your own learning and ability to retain. If you are working on 4 hours of sleep, you have the mind fog and there's a dearth of
Yeah.
chemicals that are released, so you don't actually encode memories in the same way that you normally would. So your own ability to retain information is very highly impacted. And I think we all know that from trying to cram something,
Yeah.
in tests and all of that. And then you can remember like three of the five things, and you're kind of stuck
Yeah.
trying to freewheel it, right? But that's because your brain can only hold so much information before it needs to be able to kind of start, you know, making sense of it, connecting, storing it, things like that, depending on, um, how you connect with that. So, but it also sleep, we know that from the kids we work with, that sleep
Yeah.
impacts your emotional regulation,
Right.
right? Like if I get 7 hours and seven, it's like 7 and 7.5, somewhere in there, like my magic numbers. Like, if I get enough, I'm Cookie Monster, I'm all happy, like let's go do this. And
Yeah.
if not, and then I am Oscar the Grouch and don't rattle my can because I
Right.
you're not gonna like it. Um, So having that awareness and that exploration of what those routines, tying that in,
There you
what
go.
those routines help you to have like a safe and meaningful and worthwhile sleep habit is very important. And if you're not, having it checked out wouldn't be a bad idea to go to. There's a lot of different sleep studies that can happen, and a lot of different ways that a doctor, your general practitioner, or somebody can give you a lot of tips. And there's a lot of research that's been put into that lately. So if you find that that's something that is harder, no matter what you're trying, seek support, reach out so you can keep those boundaries and feel like a better human to help be um, educating and raising and influencing many humans to be better humans.
Exactly. And again, as the routines, for me, because again, in the morning, I still always end up rushing around like a crazy person. And my dogs are always like, where is she going? Like, I'm like, get out of my way. But one
Right in
routine
front
that
of you.
that really works well is making sure like I pack my lunch the night before. My coffee is set. I've got my coffee mug ready. My water bottle is, right there. My vitamins that I'm taking, like I'll put everything out. And then I've recently actually started picking out my clothes the night before because I find, you just don't know what you're going to feel like wearing in the morning. And then, it's
You got to
like
do the fashion show.
15 minutes later and I'm like, "Oh." So, that's one routine that I am working on getting better at because I know it's a time suck in the morning. And then I'm driving like a crazy person, Now I'm doing road rage and I might spill my coffee and like this is not going to be good.
See,
See.
all because you laid out some clothes ahead of time. You had your fashion show, and that saves lives, literally saves lives.
See.
From
And
Diane B.
obviously, like those are
Rampage.
little things, and I'm sure majority of people like you already know and you've already been doing that. But it's just again remembering the importance of routines and how much they really do matter and how
Well,
much they truly, yeah, like make a difference. I mean, another one would be like I always make sure I have gas, and if I don't, I always check the night before and if I stop after work because I know in the morning, again, I'm not going to save time and think, oh, I'll have time in the morning to go get gas. But no, that's not going to happen with me. So I always check and do it the day before. So if I'm even down, sometimes even half tank, I'm like, I'm just going to fill it, like, and not mess with it so that I know in the morning, I don't have to worry about it.
Well, it's important to know about yourself. So then once you're starting to feel some of these symptoms of burnout, or once you're starting to feel off, or
Yeah,
you feel like those boundaries aren't as strong, take a look back. Am I doing those routines that I normally would? Have I been trying to like squeeze stuff in the morning? Have I been kind of
right,
skipping at night? Have I not done this or that? There's a lot of people that squeeze in meditation in the morning. Yet, you know, have you stopped doing that? Sometimes
right,
those sacrifices um, can have that huge impact. And when you're really kind of feeling a lot of that, I don't know, chagrin, or a lot of that irritability, or just you got a hitch in your giddy up,
yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that. That low
You're
energy
just like,
part, and yeah, the meh that usually needs to
eh.
be there for February, or in the cool talk right now. If you're feeling pretty mid about something, right? Then
Yeah,
taking a look at, are your routines still what you need them to be, or have you gotten away from them? And it happens. It's going to happen more times in your future. However, just being mindful of that and being able to kind of draw those back in for what you need them to be.
right. And I think that goes back to like the morning routine, not only for you as the educator, but for your class. So getting those routines and expectations down so that when your students say you're greeting them at the door, like they know when they come in, I'm turning in my homework, I'm putting my lunch over here, my water bottle here, my backpack here, my jacket here, and then you're getting out whatever morning work that needs to be done and everybody's doing it. I mean, that saves you from having to repeat, of course, 500 times what they should be doing, but they get the routine down, and whether you post it on the board until they figure out what it is, that routine really helps to set the mood, I think, for the rest of the day and how your students feel in the classroom. What do you
Yeah,
think?
no, absolutely. And then, you know, just make sure that they're clear, consistent, and concrete.
Right.
That just kind of those following those rules with any expectation helps all of your kids, um, even the kids that might need a little extra, who have a little extra skill deficits or things like that, that just need the boost from whatever reason. Those will help anybody. So not only are you holding yourself accountable for those, but you're also having a way to hold your kids accountable and helping them to make sure that those routines are comforting and predictable.
Yeah, and I also want to go back to like the support. Um, I mean, we know how important that is to be able to bounce off our frustrations, our angst, or maybe just some thoughts and ideas about our students and what's going on. And that's, my PIC, Rita, who unfortunately is sick at home. But like we always know, like, okay, and we can do that, either at our lunchtime or sometimes at the end of the day. We just need to vent and and discuss like, okay, well, this happened. What do you think we should have done? And it's super important because then I can come home and explain to my husband how my day was and what the kids did and blah, blah, blah. But he's going to be like, okay, he doesn't get it. He
Yeah.
doesn't completely understand because he's not there. He's not in it. And so to have somebody who's in it with you to be able to support each other, encourage each other, is super important. And, to be able, like, we've been blessed to work together now, like 12 years. We're on like 12 years already. Can you believe it? And it just makes such a difference, and then of course we send all these fun memes to each other about,
The
school.
meme game. And that's that's somebody coined a term for that, breadcrumbing, and that just shows that like
Huh.
you care about somebody, but it's also a way to then deflect some of the stress and deal with some of the stress with the humor.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is just funny because if you're not laughing, you're crying. And
Right.
and I'm gonna tell you, like, if you need a tissue for that, please, if you need to cry about it, please do it. That's the counselor for
Yeah.
me.
Right.
Crying helps shed stress, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But there's also the shared experience that somebody who's in the trenches with you understands. Not that somebody else can't, but
Right.
just brings a whole new level of depth to it, of that understanding and that commiseration and that connection that just feels a lot deeper when somebody who knows, like, oh yeah, I know, yeah, that Smith dude and his
Yeah.
friend Diane B. Whoo, had them
Exactly.
last year. I know what you're talking about, right? And there's just a special bond that happens that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's just super important if you can have that peer support for sure. Um, and then I also have like what would be like early signs of burnout? So for the most part, like we're really not going to go from like 0 to 180 and we're down in the trenches and we don't even know like what just happened. Granted, there probably are times, yes, that does happen. But for the most part, there's like early warning signs that like we're headed for like burnout.
Yeah.
What are some of those signs, Andrew?
Well, let's go back to the boundaries. Somebody who doesn't say no, who says yes to everything. Right?
Right.
They're the ones who always take on all the projects, more than probably is humanly feasible. Squeezing 27 hours of work into the 12 that they might be awake for
Yeah.
before they literally fall off their feet. Um, so somebody who's always trying to take on every new thing, but um, maybe they don't quite finish everything, things like that. Um, so not being able to say no, the ones um, who think that they can handle everything, and not that they probably can't, but many hands make light work. And when we deal with harder
Mhm.
things, and especially in the behavioral world, the more
Right.
people you can have help, and on a case, the more perspectives, generally the stress dissipates, right? So the ones who don't seek out help can be concerning for me. Um, Anybody who's showing like early signs of like high levels of anxiety, so that can be
Mhm.
frenetic pace of movements. Let's see, lack of sleep, too much caffeine. You'll notice nutrition goes out the window when you have a lot
Yeah.
of burnout, because generally the sleep isn't a high quality, and when your sleep isn't a high quality, your body will then crave more carbs because it wants more of that instant energy.
Mm.
So you're going to be
Yeah.
spending a lot more time eating carbs because that's what your body's craving, but yet that has the depression effect with too many carbs, where it suppresses a lot of different parts of your digestion and your hormonal system on a long-term range. Um,
Hmm.
so there's that. And there's also the irritability and just the unapproachability, the aura, if you will, of like somebody who's like, yeah, we don't mess with her.
Yeah.
And somebody walks in the room and it's just like,
And you're like, oh, yeah,
you can feel it, right? It's
yeah,
out, right? So those are a lot of just different ways of seeing some of that overload, that burnout, um, someone who's always at your beck and call, or seems to be like, oh yeah, just contact me whenever. I
yeah.
don't care. Like it's 1 o'clock at night and you're getting emails like, girl,
Oh,
I'm not.
no, thank you.
If it's an emergency, that's one thing, but this paperwork is not an emergency until 8
No.
we'll handle it at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever. Like we can be a little bit more mindful on that and timely on that. So um, those are just a few different ways to see that. There can also be a lot of higher level of emotions, is another big
Yeah.
part. So not just irritability, but higher higher level affects, where everything is like a 9, a 10, or an 11. So the happiness
Yes.
is all the way up there, and they are going full rah rah on you, right? Like it feels like it's a cheerleading session when
Yeah.
you're or they are at the lowest depths. And so there's not an in between. There's just a very big dichotomy between a lot of what they feel. So that can be another big emotion or a big emotional clue for that.
Right.
So constellation of a lot of different things, but those are a few to kind of keep an eye out for.
Right. Because obviously, we don't want you to get burnout, right? We still have the whole year. And, making sure that you have time, like he said, for family and friends. Over the weekend, take time to laugh and enjoy each other because we all know life is short. And you are making a difference. You are making an impact each and every day. And in order to do that to the best of your ability, is by doing the self-care and protecting your boundaries and taking time for yourself. Because just like we just finished this training, it says if you're not regulated, how are you going to co-regulate and help your students? And so to be your best, and that's going back again to our school mantras, is being respectful, being kind, and being your best. And our job is to model that for the students. And if we're not doing our job and taking care of ourselves and putting those boundaries in place as best as possible, we're not showing up as our best. And so I really want to encourage you guys to put some of those boundaries back in place, maybe, and really limit those extracurriculars, and especially like some new teachers, because you're excited, you're ready to go, and you're like, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Oh yeah. Like, no, no, you don't have to do all that. And so truly protect your energy so that you avoid burnout, so that you can be your best. I mean, we know life happens, things are going to happen, and you're not always going to be in your best, and that's okay. And that's being authentic too, and letting students know, like, guys, like, I haven't slept very well, like, I'm not feeling good, but I'm here, we got to do this, whatever it is. I think truly being authentic and letting your students know when you're struggling is really a connection with them because then they see, oh, you really are like human, you know? Like you said, the teachers aren't spending the night there, you don't live here. Um, what are your thoughts on some of that on Andrew?
I agree. No, being able to show your humanity is always important, and the congruence between that it makes you more, for the most part, it makes you more endearing. Okay. Now, let's not just unload everything to make yourself,
Right.
that's another boundary,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
owning that and being authentic about like, hey, I am tired. I got my grouchy pants on. It sounds like some of you all need this. Let's all take a break together.
Yeah,
Being able to be that honest with kids and with students is it's refreshing for a lot of them because you may be feeling it, but they also have had times where they feel it. So that common and shared experience can just strengthen connections, create connections, and all of that good stuff.
exactly. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. You've shared a lot of great tips and suggestions. And which one are you guys going to try? Which one are you going to put in place to protect yourself so that you can be your best and continue to impact your students to help them be the best that they can be as well? So, thank you so much, Andrew, for being here again. We appreciate all of your expertise. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks so much for listening. I truly appreciate your support. And if I have encouraged you, motivated you to continue to learn, to support your students, even better, to help them strive in your classroom, please leave a review, hit that subscribe button so that others can see they can learn and grow here as well. Thank you.